Hello there, fellow peasants. Get ready to pay for the biggest tax grab by the government in living memory, because your pensions, savings and even your family home could be under threat to pay for the pandemic. As per usual, please like, subscribe and comment below. And when subscribing, please press the little bell, but also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications. There's now a lot of talk in the press about this or that tax being raised, or its tax reliefs being limited, so that the Exchequer can rake more of our hard-earned dosh into the Treasury coffers. And no one's going to be spared. We will all be hit in one way or another. Rishi Sunak's team has already telegraphed that they're going to convert the state pension triple lock into a double fudge, so that they don't have to hand over the full whack due to our pensioners, many of whom rely on that paltry amount. They don't have gold-plated civil service pensions, and also remember that it's already come out that the top Treasury and Home Office mandarins are in line for bumper pay rises and bonuses. Maybe they know what's coming and have ensured their take-home pay won't be diminished. Especially when the Bank of England is talking today about inflation hitting the 4% bracket, which is twice the official target, and that's using the CPI method of working out inflation, which some pundits claim underplays it. And that's going to eat into wages and pensions. Although the bank's Monetary Policy Committee did keep interest rates at their record low, for now, protecting credit card owers, for example. But now we hear that the Chancellor Rishi Sunak has his eyes on tinkering with inheritance tax and capital gains tax. Now these might be more palatable targets for many, especially those on the left, because the people who pay these taxes are usually at the top of the wealth scale, the top 1%. But those people are also the ones that could end up taking more aggressive tax avoidance measures in other areas to mitigate any losses. Now, the Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, says that the Exchequer got £14.9 billion from capital gains and inheritance taxes in the financial year to April 2020. But with the changes already put in place, this could rise by over 40% to about £21 billion by 2026. That's a tad over £6 billion more and will not touch the sides as it goes down the Treasury more, and all because we have to pay for the pandemic, of course. And due to previous debt and that caused by government spending during the coronavirus pandemic, we now owe net more than 2.2 trillion quid. And in June alone, the interest payment on that debt, which we the taxpayer end up funding, was £8.7 billion. So you can see that a year's worth of those capital gains and inheritance tax changes already in place will not even fund 1 month's debt interest payments. And by the way, for those that say the country should borrow hand over fist now while interest rates are so low, there are already some £470 billion worth of index-linked gilts in circulation, linked to the old RPI inflation rate, which is much higher than CPI. And the interest related to those rose by £6 billion in the year to June 2021, and this has yet to filter through onto the books, says the ONS. And once the traditional fixed interest gilts get to their redemption age, they will be rolled over at probably higher interest rates. So you get the scale of Rishi's problem. Especially as the Tory manifesto from the 2019 general election promised no hikes in national insurance, VAT and income tax. Can that stand is the question. Probably why Rishi's already hit the bigger businesses that will see their corporate tax rise to 25%. Now, Just before the pandemic hit us in early 2020, you can see from this graph that our national debt had already ballooned since the credit crunch in 2008 that we have never fully recovered from, where the debt went from about 550 billion quid to nearly 1.8 trillion pounds, and now it's gone up to 2.2 trillion pounds, and that represents 98% of our GDP. And the only thing that stops it going over the 100% mark is that GDP is now still going up. And the debt just accelerated up again in the last 15 to 18 months to its now 2.2 trillion pounds. So it's not as if we started the pandemic off from a good economic place, is it? And I'll ask a serious question. What has the country got to show for that 1.8 trillion it borrowed just before the pandemic struck? Have we got the biggest, brightest and shiniest Navy, Army and Air Force? Have we got coppers on every street corner? Is there a hospital in every single town? No, what we do have is a bloated state and a relatively high tax regime to fund it. And promises of all sorts of things to come, including HS2, which has already cost us a bomb with no track yet laid as far as I know. As well as some rather smug bankers, of course. I'll leave you to decide where you think the blame lies for those catastrophic figures, but as far as I'm concerned, there are two main culprits. The first, of course, is the government, because they're the ones that spend the money. And it doesn't matter what brand of government you're talking about, because the Lib Lab Con have all had a hand in this. But the second miscreant here is us, the voter, because we keep on handing over the reins of power to the same old jokers. All because they promise us freebies with borrowed money or our own money. And many of us don't ask where it's really coming from, let alone care. Anyway, there is also talk of some sort of property or asset tax, so that anyone with a house or paintings in the loft can be forced to pay more, akin to that old window tax, or a boosted council tax. And that's on top of this newly floated idea of an extra 2% tax for elderly care, paid for by all of us. But it will never be enough. Our children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be paying for this too. Now I'll take you back to that graph and ask what effects the pandemic would have had on us if our previous politicians had been more honest in their promises and delivery, as well as husbanded the nation's finances in a more responsible fashion. If we ever do recover properly from this, which will take many, many decades, I hope there will be proper debates about never getting into that stupid position ever again. But I doubt it. The pull of the promise of free stuff is highly magnetic, even when not delivered. Just ask any Nicola Sturgeon voter. So what's your opinion on the threat of new increased taxes to pay for huge government schemes? Please like and comment below.